They did privatize it, and they do deserve credit for that. Since the early days of the Internet's ancestor, the state-run ARPANET, network management and Internet governance initiatives have migrated further away from government regulation, not closer to it. This evolution away from government intervention has been the most important ingredient in the Internet's success. Since the birth of the Internet, the conflicts caused by the natural tensions between software developers and the owners of the networks that deliver that software to consumers have been resolved by nonprofit, non-governmental Internet governance bodies. These collaborative entities, such as the Internet Engineering Task Force, are comprised of volunteer engineers, academics, and other technical experts who act in their individual capacity and not on behalf of their employers. They are able to analyze highly technical and complex engineering challenges in Internet time very quickly, and they have never failed to resolve an issue. The government simply cannot match such a track record. An important fact to note is that although I have the highest regard for each of my commission colleagues, not one of the five of us is an engineer. When it comes to resolving complaints and rulemakings, we are bound by constitutionally mandated legal procedures that consume long periods of time. In light of all this, do we really want lawyers and unelected bureaucrats running the Internet? Furthermore, before the FCC imposes new regulations on the Internet, it should remember just how closely the international community watches what we do. While participating as part of the U.S. government delegation to the International Telecommunications Union's conference in Geneva in October, several foreign regulators told me that they, or their international counterparts, are waiting for the U.S. to assert more government authority over the Internet to justify an increased state role over the Internet's operations in their countries. Let us not lose sight of the fact that foreign governments may have a definition of the public interest which is far different from ours. Even if the FCC's intentions are pure, their motives may not be. So if the Commission acts further, it should be careful to avoid inadvertently setting a precedent or providing political cover to strong-arm regimes that wish to suffocate freedom. Some have noted that nations whose governments regulate the Internet less live under more freedom, while societies that regulate it more live under less freedom. Thomas Jefferson put it better more than 2 centuries ago. Happy to see his picture on the nameplates here. Thank you. Another Virginian. He's not from Wisconsin. Enough. Okay, so you beat Duke. All right, but I'm not going to go with it. Jeez. He said a long time ago, and this quote becomes more relevant every day here in Washington, quote, "A government big enough to supply you with everything you need is a government big enough to take away everything that you have. The course of history shows that as the government grows, liberty decreases." It's Thomas Jefferson over 200 years ago. Now, I have long argued that a better path to guard against potential anti-competitive conduct is by creating an atmosphere that promotes abundance and competition in last-mile broadband Internet on-ramps. In a robust and competitive market, broadband companies would have a disincentive to engage in anti-competitive behavior. For example, if one provider with anti-competitive motives were to try to undermine consumers' freedoms, a competitor would have an incentive to exploit that situation and work to attract those unhappy customers. Consumer choice is the ultimate antidote to anti-competitive conduct. But in order to build more broadband platforms for consumers to choose among, legions and legions of investors continue to tell us that broadband companies need less regulation and not more of it. For those who remain concerned about the potential for anti-competitive conduct, that can be addressed by our antitrust laws. When it comes to resolving internet engineering disputes, let's stick with what works. Government policy should not break from its time-tested, hands-off approach, which encourages flat, bottom-up, and collaborative internet governance mechanisms. History has taught us that the internet is better able to flourish if we avoid top-down government mandates. No government has ever succeeded in mandating innovation and investment. So with freedom in mind, thank you very much for letting me have the freedom to discuss these matters with you today. I don't know the exact format, but I'm happy to take any questions from the audience on this or anything else that you like talking about.
Thank you for agreeing to take some questions. Show of hands of any questions from, yes. Could you stand up and...
Fewer government intervention, less government intervention in business. There is something that I think maybe government could do to help us solve one problem on the internet. It's a sensitive topic, and I agree with the right of our First Amendment of freedom of speech. Much of the internet use is inappropriate for children and for adults as well. If I want cable TV, I can purchase what I want in blocks, and if I want basic, I can get basic. If I want other things, I can purchase additional programming over the cable. I understand that the technology is there, that we can get clean internet into our homes if that's what we desired. Is there anything that you can do to help facilitate people who want clean internet in their homes?
Excellent question. And you know, as the father of 3 young children, I share that. And so, you know, the first and last line of defense, of course, should be parents. And you know, for instance, we have one computer, internet connection in the house. We have it in a place where mom and dad can always see what's going on. I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So far with the 2-year-old, you know, that's not an issue, but with the 8-year-old and the 10-year-old, we're getting there. So, but sometimes that's not enough, and I'm an FCC commissioner and all, but I'm going to be a slow adopter, a late adopter for giving them a wireless device. As much as I love wireless, I think we'll give them something at some point that's very limited in what they can do. But the FCC does not have the statutory authority to govern or regulate internet content. So we simply can't do that. That's done, so child pornography and other illegal content such as that is governed by, or regulated by the U.S. Attorney's Office and Department of Justice. And we do have a notice of inquiry right now looking at what the FCC can do and what Congress to do. We're going to make some recommendations to Congress on sort of in the context of children's use of all media platforms. Television, cable TV, over-the-air TV, radio, the internet, whatever the case might be. Are there some common themes and some standardized tools we can have out there? And also, we did present a report earlier this year on talking about some of the new technological tools that parents have in their hands. And there are a lot out there. So while there's more peril out there, there are also a lot of tools out there. I think this is going to be I think you and I, when we meet up again in 10 years, might have the same actual dialogue, because as these new tools are invented, there will be ways around that as well. And so it's going to be a constant iterative process. That, you know, one of the great benefits of the internet, as well as some of the peril of the internet, is that it's very easy to hook up to it and have your content out there for the world to see. And when it comes to protecting children from harmful content, that's a growing concern, not only in this country, but in the international community as well. The International Telecommunications Union that I talked about earlier, where I was in Geneva in October, has a whole task force dedicated to just this. One of my former colleagues, Commissioner Debbie Tate from Tennessee, has been spearheading that as well. So it's going to be an ongoing effort. We all need to remain vigilant, and Congress may act on this as well.